You're holding $100 bill right now. In your wallet, your account, doesn't matter. Here's what nobody tells you. That bill is a promise, not money. A promise. And promises break. 1923, Germany. A single egg cost 320 billion marks. Not million, billion. Teachers burned stacks of cash in their fireplaces because it was cheaper than buying firewood. The paper was worth more than the number printed on it. 2008, Zimbabwe. Inflation hit 89.7 sextillion%. You know what a sextillion is? Neither did they. They just watched their life savings become wallpaper. A doctor's monthly salary couldn't buy a loaf of bread. 2018, Venezuela. Mothers weighed their cash on scales because counting it took too long. The bolivar became so worthless that people folded it into origami and sold the art for more than the currency itself. But here's the part that haunts me. In every single one of these collapses, some people walked out wealthier than they walked in. While their neighbors starved, while doctors became beggars, while teachers burned money for warmth, a small group protected everything. Some even multiplied their wealth by 10, 20, 50 times. They didn't have secret information. They didn't have political connections. They just knew something you're about to learn. Because when I analyzed 11 major currency collapses across the last century, from the Weimar Republic to Lebanon's recent implosion, a pattern emerged so clear, so undeniable, that it changed how I see every dollar I own. 5 assets survived. Everything else went to zero. And the truly terrifying part, 3 of the things most people think are safe didn't make the list. Your savings account? Gone. Your government bonds? Worthless. Your retirement fund? Evaporated. I'm about to show you what replaced them, what people traded everything they owned to acquire, what stood between survival and complete ruin, and more importantly, what you can position yourself in right now, today, before the next collapse that economists worldwide say isn't a question of if, but when. Because the average fiat currency lasts 27 years. The current dollar system started in 1971. We're 53 years in. We're living on borrowed time with borrowed money. So let me ask you this. When the music stops, where are you standing? Asset number 1 survived every collapse. Every single one. And it's not what the financial advisors tell you to buy. It's land. But not just any land. March 1946, Hungary. The pengo became the worst case of hyperinflation in recorded history. At its peak, prices doubled every 15 hours. 15 hours! You went to sleep and woke up 50% poorer. The government printed a 1 sextillion pengo note. That's a 1 with 21 zeros. Here's what happened. Urban apartments in Budapest became worthless overnight. Nobody wanted them. Why? Because you can't eat concrete. You can't burn apartment walls. You can't grow anything on the 14th floor. But farmland? Agricultural plots outside the city? Their value went vertical. A farmer with 10 acres became wealthier than a banker with a mansion because that farmer had something nobody could print, nobody could inflate, nobody could devalue. He had food, and food is the one currency that never crashes. I found records of a single acre of potato farmland in rural Hungary trading for an entire city block of urban real estate in 1946. 1 acre for a city block. This pattern repeated in Zimbabwe, in Venezuela, in Lebanon, every time. But here's the critical detail everyone misses. Not all land is equal when currencies die. Beachfront property? Worthless. Luxury estates? Abandoned. Commercial real estate in financial districts? Ghost towns. The land that survived had 3 specific characteristics: location near water sources, arable soil, and distance from political centers where chaos concentrated. There's a reason the wealthy Russians bought agricultural land in South America during their 1998 crisis, why Chinese billionaires are buying farmland in Australia and Canada right now. They've studied the pattern. They know what's coming. But land has a problem. You can't split an acre to buy bread. You can't carry it when you flee. You can't hide it from governments that decide property seizure is their solution. That's why asset number 2 became the ultimate survival tool. It's portable, it's divisible, and it has held value for 5,000 years across every empire, every collapse, every reset. In Weimar Germany, 1 ounce of it bought a city block. In Zimbabwe, it meant the difference between eating and starving. And in Venezuela right now, people are literally mining it illegally just to survive. I'm talking about gold. But there's something about gold during collapses that nobody tells you.
Gold saved lives, but it also got people killed. 1923, Berlin. A jeweler named Marcus Klein kept his wealth in gold coins hidden in his basement. Smart, right? He survived the hyperinflation while his neighbors lost everything. But when he tried to use a gold coin to buy food, the baker reported him. Within hours, his house was raided. The gold was confiscated. Marcus disappeared. Here's the dark truth about gold during collapse. Governments know you have it, and when they're desperate, they come for it. April 5, 1933. Franklin Roosevelt signed Executive Order 6102. It made owning gold illegal in America. Citizens had to turn in their gold coins, bars, certificates. The punishment for keeping it? 10 years in prison or $10,000 fine, equivalent to $200,000 today. They paid you $20.67 per ounce, then immediately revalued gold to $35 per ounce. A 69% wealth transfer from citizens to government, overnight. It happened in Australia in 1959, in Britain in 1966, in India multiple times. Every major economy has confiscated gold when currencies failed. But here's what the history books hide. While governments seized gold bars and coins, there was one form of gold they couldn't touch, because technically it wasn't money. It was jewelry, art, industrial equipment. Women in Weimar Germany melted their wedding rings and reformed them into buttons, belt buckles, eyeglass frames. Men wore gold-lined watches that looked like cheap brass. Families commissioned decorative gold statues that were actually portable wealth. The Venezuelan crisis proved this again. Right now, people are wearing their savings as necklaces, crossing borders with gold sewn into their clothes. But even gold has a fatal flaw during true collapse. Try buying a week's worth of food with a 1-ounce gold coin. The vendor can't make change. You either overpay massively or you don't eat. That's where asset number 3 comes in. It's the asset that became the actual everyday currency when official money died, and almost nobody today owns any of it. Zimbabwe, 2008. The trillion-dollar notes were worthless. Gold was too valuable for small transactions. So what did people actually use to buy bread, soap, medicine? Silver. Pre-1965 silver dimes and quarters. But here's the twist that changed everything. It wasn't just any silver. There was a specific form, a specific type that became worth 10 times more than its metal content. Street vendors fought over it. People traded cars for bags of it. And the reason why will make you question everything you own right now. Junk silver. That's what they called it. Pre-1965 American coins. Dimes, quarters, half dollars. 90% silver content. And during Zimbabwe's collapse, a single pre-1965 quarter bought more food than a wheelbarrow full of trillion-dollar notes. Why? Because everyone recognized it. Everyone trusted it. You didn't need to test it, weigh it, verify it. A 1964 quarter was a 1964 quarter. Universal, divisible, trusted. But here's the insane part. In Venezuela right now, people aren't using Venezuelan silver. They're using American junk silver from the 1960s. Coins that crossed oceans, changed hands 1,000 times, and still hold value 60 years later. A nurse in Caracas told her story online last year. She traded her car, a 2010 sedan, for 40 pounds of pre-1965 silver quarters. Her family thought she was insane. That was 3 years ago. Today, that car is rusting in a ditch, worthless. Those quarters fed her family for 18 months, and she still has half of them left. The principle is simple. When paper fails, people return to metal. When gold is too valuable for daily use, they return to silver. And when trust collapses, they return to recognizable forms. But silver has a problem gold doesn't. It's heavy. It's bulky. Try carrying $10,000 in silver quarters. You'll need a backpack and a strong spine. That's why asset number 4 became critical. It's lightweight, it's concentrated value, and in every single modern collapse, it became more valuable than gold itself. I'm talking about skills. Portable, unconfiscatable, forever valuable skills. Lebanon, 2019 to 2023. The currency lost 98% of its value. A doctor's salary went from $3,000 a month to $30. But here's what happened next. Doctors who only knew how to work within the system, who only understood insurance billing and hospital protocols, they became poor overnight. But doctors who knew traditional medicine, who could set bones without x-rays, who understood herbal treatments, who could perform procedures with minimal equipment, they became the new wealthy class. They didn't charge in Lebanese pounds. They charged in cash dollars, in gold, in trade. A simple house call cost a chicken. A minor surgery cost a boat. They were paid in food, in goods, in real value. The same pattern emerged everywhere. Weimar Germany elevated cobblers, tailors, blacksmiths, carpenters. Zimbabwe made plumbers and electricians wealthier than lawyers and accountants. Venezuela turned mechanics into millionaires while MBAs starved. There's a farmer in Argentina who survived 4 currency crashes. 4. He said something that stuck with me. In stable times, people pay for convenience. In collapse, they pay for necessity. Learn to provide what people absolutely cannot live without. But skills have a limitation. You can only work so many hours. You can only serve so many people. Your body eventually breaks. That's why asset number 5 is the most controversial, the most dangerous, and the most powerful. Because in Weimar Germany, it turned struggling families into multi-generational wealth. In Zimbabwe, it created a new aristocracy. And right now, in 2026, it's being accumulated by people who see what's coming. This asset isn't physical. You can't hold it. Governments can't confiscate it directly, but it has destroyed more lives than it saved. And using it wrong doesn't just make you poor, it can make you a criminal. Debt. Strategic debt. The kind that evaporates when currency dies. I know what you're thinking. Debt during a collapse? That's insane. But here's what actually happens when hyperinflation hits. 1923, Weimar Germany. If you owed 100,000 marks on your house in 1922, that was a fortune, a crushing, life-destroying burden. By November 1923, that same 100,000 marks couldn't buy a newspaper. The debt still existed on paper, but it was worth nothing. People paid off their entire mortgages with a single egg. Families cleared generational debt with pocket change, and anyone who borrowed heavily right before the collapse became wealthy overnight. Their debts evaporated, their assets remained. Hugo Steens became one of the richest men in Germany this exact way. He borrowed massively in marks, bought hard assets, factories, mines, land, and when the currency collapsed, his debts evaporated while his empire stood untouched. This happened again in Hungary in 1946, in Argentina multiple times, in Zimbabwe, in Venezuela right now. A friend of mine in Caracas took out a massive Bolivar-denominated loan in 2016 to buy inventory for his business. Everyone called him reckless. By 2019, he paid off the entire loan with what used to be a week's salary. The inventory he bought, still valuable. The debt, gone. But here's the razor edge. This only works if you follow 3 non-negotiable rules. Rule 1. The debt must be denominated in the dying currency. If you borrow in dollars and your local currency collapses, you're destroyed. Venezuelans who took dollar-denominated loans lost everything. Only Bolivar-denominated debt evaporated. Rule 2. You must convert that borrowed money into hard assets immediately. If you borrow and hold cash, you're just losing twice. The debt shrinks, but so does your cash. You need to transform that borrowed currency into land, gold, silver, equipment, inventory, anything real, anything tangible. And Rule 3, you have to time it right. Borrow too early and you're stuck paying real interest on real debt for years. Borrow too late and nobody will lend to you. The window is narrow. It's usually right when everyone else is panicking, right when conventional wisdom says don't take on any debt. There's a banker in Argentina who survived 4 currency resets. He told me his strategy. Watch the government. When they start implementing capital controls, when they start limiting bank withdrawals, when they start talking about temporary measures, that's when you borrow everything you can and convert it immediately. But here's the warning nobody gives you. This strategy has destroyed families. People who borrowed but couldn't convert fast enough. People who borrowed in the wrong currency. People who got the timing wrong by 6 months and ended up in debt slavery. In Zimbabwe, I read about a man who borrowed to buy a taxi, but he waited. He thought prices would drop. By the time he bought the taxi, hyperinflation had already started. His income was in devaluing currency. His debt stayed fixed in real terms. He lost everything. Strategic debt is a weapon, and like any weapon, it can save you or kill you, depending on how you use it. So here's where we are. 5 assets. Land, but only agricultural, only arable. Gold, but hidden, transformed, portable. Silver, recognizable, divisible, trustworthy. Skills, necessary, unconfiscatable, always valued. And debt, strategic, timed perfectly, converted immediately. Everything else went to zero. Savings accounts, bonds, stocks in local companies, cash under mattresses, retirement funds denominated in dying currency. Gone. All of it. The people who survived weren't lucky. They were prepared. They studied history. They recognized the pattern. They acted while everyone else was paralyzed by normalcy bias. Because here's the final truth. Every person in Weimar Germany thought it couldn't happen. Every doctor in Venezuela thought they were safe. Every teacher in Zimbabwe thought the government would fix it. They were all wrong. The question isn't whether your currency will collapse. History says it will. The question is, when it does, will you be holding paper promises or real assets? The choice is yours, but the clock is ticking.